breakfast cereals and boomsticks, here's your look at the NECA toys. This is the Toony Terrors Evil Dead 2 Ash Williams. Bring the fun of Saturday morning cartoons to your horror collection with these adorable little creeps. Pick your favorites or collect them all and make every day Toony Terror time. Before we sit a spell and have a look at Toony Terror's Ash, the first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the figure actually stands. I'd like to also send out a big thank you to the folks over at NECA Toys who sent this sample my way. These ones have been around for a bit, so it should be easy to pick them up through various online sites or comic book stores when they eventually do open up. Looking at the tape measure, you're looking at Toony Terror's Ash standing 5.7 inches in height. Switching that to centimeters post-haste, then you're looking at the figure standing a little over 14.5 centimeters, 14.6 to be exact. Let's bring a couple of figures in for some size comparisons. There is Jason, and we're going to do it. There's Freddy Krueger. Even though it wasn't fulfilled in the theaters where we did get ourselves a Freddy versus Jason versus Ash, this is what it looks like certainly in Toony Terror form. Ash is a little bit taller than Freddy Krueger simply just because Freddy Krueger sort of is in that sneaking crouched position, while Jason Voorhees is standing fully straight. He's a little bit taller than Ash here on his right. By the way, I'm still hopeful that we're going to eventually get that NES Jason treatment for the already released Toony Terrors Jason. Now that we've gotten ourselves a Part 7 Jason looming in the immediate future, let's hope that NECA can actually approach that Jason Voorhees with those classic NES colors. I'd pick it up in a heartbeat. It's not quite a heartbeat, that's just a snap, but one thing that these Toony Terrors do also come included with is cutout artwork that you can actually cut out and display behind the figure. Now this is simply just, again, the inside of the cottage, as you can see right there. And you simply just cut these all out with not imaginary scissors, of course, real scissors. And then you can display with the figures. I mean, it's fine and good. I mean, I have done it with a couple of my Toony Terrors, but I just kind of still wish that they could have come with like a little clamp, like, well, a little circle with a half circle on the top, and there's a slot in the middle of that half circle. You probably know exactly what I'm talking about. They generally hold up like game tokens. I might actually even consider going through and maybe checking on places like Amazon where they may have like board game character stands. And I could just like put that on top of it. So at the very least, then I'd be able to hold these upright instead of having to have just leaned them against the wall, which is pretty much what I've been doing up to this point. I'm going to have to get a little bit more creative, I think. Having a look at the figure's accessories, he only comes with one. Technically, you could say he comes with two. His main one, and the one that's packaged separately, is his boomstick. It's nicely done. As you can see, it's been sawed off. And it's been done in a not quite gloss black, but almost a semi-gloss black. The same treatment has been done to the trigger down below. And as you can see, it's got a nice faux wood handle. No grain added to this. They wanted to kind of keep it as simple as possible, make it closest to something that you could imagine seeing this character in, like an old Hanna-Barbera cartoon. Which is, again, I just love the idea of these. You can either take the boomstick, and you can either fit it into Ash's hand. We'll go ahead and do that right now. One good thing is about this particular figure is he does have elbow articulation, so that you can actually bend the arm up. And you basically just take the boomstick and you fit it in between his fingers, sort of in the way to then get the pointer finger resting on the trigger, just like that. And of course you can then adjust it accordingly depending on how you want to have it displayed. I'm probably going to have the shotgun sticking upright like this, but if you wanted to, you can have it straight down as well. And that looks just as good also. Or, of course, I would be failing if I omitted the fact that, of course, you can also take the boomstick and you can fit it into his back. Just like that. I mean, there's a lot of room in there. A family of 4 could easily fit in there. And still lots of space for a full dining set. You fit the boomstick just in there. And as you can see, it sticks out on the bottom there. He technically also comes with his chainsaw, but it's not really something that removes, so I failed, I would be failing, I would say, to say it's an accessory. And it's really as more so part of the figure itself. It doesn't seem like it removes. I mean, it does rotate slightly, but not to the point where I feel like I would want to take it off. I don't even know why you would want to take it off anyways. I mean, it's meant to be on his hand, and taking it off, he would probably just have like a ball peg underneath that. As you can see, it's been painted still simple in its design, kept only just to the more primary colors, primary in the sense of red, yellow, and blue, but primary in the sense that there's no secondary colors added to it, nothing to add some depth or shadow or light to it. It's basic gray, basic light gray for the teeth of the chainsaw, and then a very simple yet dark red used for the main motor area of the chainsaw. And again, because he does have articulation, you can bring it up. I mean, it does make it look a little weird having his arm straight up. I guess he's confident. He's confident. He's dry and secure. He's raising his hand. He's raising his hand because he's sure. Anybody remember that old deodorant commercial? Boy, I'm dating myself. One other thing, too, is that the holster of the boomstick can rotate back and forth. Consider, if anything, just a little bit of additional articulation, but that's about it. And here we have Ash. Not a bad, like I said, looking likeness for more cartoon Ash. Technically, around the time that I'm doing this review, it's been revealed that we are getting ourselves another Ash that's going to be slightly different. It's going to have a lot more blood all over his arm and all over his chest. I think he's also going to have the ripped sleeve. We are also getting a Halloween 2 Michael Myers, which I don't think is that much different than the Halloween Michael Myers that we've already gotten under the Toony Terrors. Slightly darker color, and he's got more blood. Of course, he's got the blood coming out of his eyes. So there's a couple of different options. This guy or the guy that we're getting down the road as well. Overall, like I said, not a bad looking head sculpt at all. One issue that I have with the figure, and it's really a small one, is the head when it attaches to the ball joint. Let me just show you what's going on here. I mean, to give credit, the socket area is fairly deep on the head. However, the ball joint isn't. The ball joint doesn't stick up high enough, I feel, to really fully catch that little hole socket underneath his head. Resulting of that, I find a lot of times when I am moving the head back and forth, it does seem to want to pop off that ball joint way too frequently. Again, it's probably simply just a case where that ball joint could have been just raised slightly, just a little bit more, so it could fully catch the socket of the head. But I mean, that's a small gripe. It's certainly not a case where anything is broken to it. It's not something that will break down the road simply just because it's attaching by a ball joint. But overall, I'm just liking the head sculpt here. He's got a few cuts, little nooks, little nicks, I should say, on the side of his face, also on his chin. They have captured, I feel, that real Bruce Campbell chin. I mean, I think they've got the strong chin happening here. I like that he's got the one eyebrow up. So even in the fact that he's having to fight the Deadites and stay alive so they don't claim his soul, he still does it with a big smile on his face and a big eyebrow sticking straight up. His slicked back hair with the one slight curl sort of freeing itself from the rest of the strands. I like that touch as well. The paint is really generally quite clean on these figures. Again, there's not much in the way of shadow happening here. They're keeping it, again, just to the coloring of the main base color. Ideally, like, for example, like the blue on his shirt and the brown in his pants. The shirt, as you can see, has some decent wrinkles happening where the shirt would be tucked into the belt. Equally so, I feel the naturally falling wrinkles that form on sleeves are captured here as well. But again, like, they've kind of kept the details very minimal on this one. Simply, again, just because it's supposed to look like Ash's cartoon counterpart and not his live action appearance. I do like the fact he's got a little really narrow waist. He's got a broad shoulders, but very skinny, almost shaggy-like legs. You can see that he's also got the little rip on the bottom of his pant leg. That's a nice touch. And you can see, despite the fact he's fighting the evil dead, he still keeps relatively clean-looking shoes. That's nice. On the underside, he does have only one singular peg. So if you want to make use of a NECA display stand, just plug it right in there. And you can get him to stand upright. Although he doesn't have really any issues, I find, standing upright. For the figure's articulation, his head rotates technically all the way around. It moves down, it moves up. But because he's got such a long neck, again, as you're moving it, it seems like it wants to free itself very easily from the ball joint. So a lot of times you may want to move the figure's head, for example, and then just sort of push it back down. See if it can lock itself back onto that ball joint, but it just doesn't seem like it stays as well as it should. The arms rotate all the way around. On this arm, it rotates all the way around, and technically, yes, he does have articulation on the chainsaw hand. We wouldn't really call it a chainsaw hand. He's literally just replacing his hand for chainsaw. The other arm does rotate also all the way around. Just be careful while you're doing that. You sort of can move this out of the way too, that if you want to get this completely all the way around and that sort of is in the way, just move it out of the way. See, that's easy. A good motto to live by in life. If something is in the way, just move it out of the way. And technically, he also does have elbow articulation as well. That can work to your favor. I mean, in some cases, you can have the boomstick facing this way. You can have the boomstick facing this way. Or you can have it just facing forward. Facing it forward is probably not the most successful of the three options, simply just because you're going to be having all this gap space on either side. It's going to look like he's got an arm sort of just levitating in midair. Hey, how'd you do that? So it's probably best to do it either this way or just to have it straight down. So I like those options. And then the hand also does rotate. He doesn't have waist articulation, but he does have leg articulation. And again, if you want to make use of a stand, I guess in some ways you can sort of have him in a somewhat walking pose. Yeah, I just happen to have a NECA stand available. Fancy that. It's almost like he planned this. Just plug that in place, and you can sort of have him in, like I said, a somewhat walking pose. Looks a bit awkward, but still, it's doing a lot more than simply just having him standing in place. I guess from the side, from this side, it looks like he's really wants just to be leaning off. So might be maybe your best interest instead, just to have the figure standing straight. Looking cool, or looking groovy, as they say. Not a bad, again, looking Ash at all. He's got all the cool colors that he had in the film. A lot less blood. Pulled the blood back a little bit on this particular release. I guess the intended plan is the next Ash we're going to be getting is going to be thoroughly saturated, soaked from head to toe. And that's definitely a figure I'm going to want to pick up as well. Because Ash also does possess that swiveling elbow on that one arm, means that you could also display the figure as if he's pulling the boomstick out, about to lay waste to a neighboring deadite. At the end of the day, he's a nice looking figure, and again falls well into the scope of what we have been getting with the Toony Terrors. All sort of toonified characters from horror films, looking instead like they would be something that would be popping up in an episode of Scooby-Doo. Man, could you just imagine if NECA could somehow partner up with the folks over at Hanna-Barbera and they could produce Scooby-Doo horror episodes with some of our favorite characters like Jason, Freddy, and Ash here. That would be a fantastic, even just release it on DVD, because I can't imagine it would be making its way to TV screens. But just release it as direct-to-DVD releases or direct-to-Blu-ray releases. I would be picking those up in a heartbeat. Yes, I do like the design of Ash. Sort of problematic is his head when you want to be rotating it. I think just two things work against you. The length of the neck is one thing, and the fact that the length of the ball joint isn't long enough, causing that when you do rotate the head, that the head does seem to pop off from time to time. Certainly as it goes, though, I'm always thinking in the back of my mind how companies can reuse these molds. I'd be thrilled just to see this guy get re-released as a Deadite Ash or Evil Ash. That would be certainly a nice touch as well. But we already have one Ash down, and we are going to be getting another Ash in the Toony Terrors line. Let's not eat up all the space with multiple Ashes, although that would be certainly right up my alley. I'm still loving the designs of these characters, and it's apparently popular enough because we're going to be getting more and more of these. If you ask me, I'd be fine if NECA just continues to release Toony Terrors. There's a lot of terrors that have been on the screen, and I would love to see how they're represented as Toony characters instead. Again, a big thank you to the folks over at NECA who took the time and provided the sample that we had a look at in this review. If you have picked up the Toony Terrors Evil Dead 2 Ash, let me know down below in the comments section what you guys think of it, or based on this review, what do you guys think of the Toony Terrors Ash? Also, if you're new to the channel and liking the content that you're seeing thus far, might I consider you the idea of hitting that subscribe button down below, turning the bell notification on, and keeping your peepers peeled, because there's definitely going to be a lot more videos coming your way. As always, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.